What's going on, all my fantasy football fans out there? Welcome to my channel, waiverwirequeen, and I want to have some fun with the practice squad this week. I'm gonna give you some players that you probably shouldn't start, but they're wild card players, and they do have the potential to either have a great game and you'll look like a genius in fantasy football, or they're gonna stink it up and everyone in your league is going to be talking about you and how should not you should not play fantasy football. They're going to try to revoke your fantasy football card, and that's pretty much what the practice squad is all about. It's all about opportunity and taking advantage of a player who you wouldn't normally play, but maybe this week they're going to have a great game due to circumstances or opportunity because there are injuries out there. Some teams just are searching for a player to step up. And in the case of the the Lions, there's so much going on out there. So I'm gonna give y'all some players, and you'll love me if they all have good weeks, and we've talked about a few of them in the past, or you'll hate me and say, "Wait, Why, Queen? I'm not fooling with you anymore." But nonetheless, we're gonna talk about a player that I mentioned last week. And now, mind you, this is the practice squad, and I'll tell you, um, you know, what to do with some of these guys. Now, I've mentioned last week to consider, and this is in deep leagues, and you have players on bye, and then you have teams that are struggling with injuries, and again, teams like the Lions that just don't have much outside of two players on offense, and they're desperate. And hell, if you are trying to play any of the Lions wide receivers, you're desperate. But it is what it is. You have to do what you have to do every week in order to position yourself to win. So let's talk about wide receiver Jacksonville Jaguars, Jamal Agnew. And I'm not saying I'm pronouncing his name right, but nonetheless, I mentioned him last week. He had a solid week. He had 62 yards. He had six receptions, which was uh, shocking to me. And he had one rush. So now this guy played over 63% of the snaps. Normally he just sticks to special teams, but this week you have teams on bye week, and you have some players that are just hurt. And this is for deep leagues, and this is practice squad. So he has the potential to either get you some fantasy points or get you a big fat dud. And that's why this is called the practice squad. And you're taking chances on players that you normally would not take a chance on, but sometimes you're desperate and you just have to do what you have to do out here in these fantasy football streets. And you got to think that DJ Chark is out for the season. They wanted to get this guy more involved. And so this past week, he played 63% of the snaps, which is a step in the right direction. Obviously, they are not utilizing uh Chenault. That's one of my faves. Chenault Lavishka as much as I would have expected them, and I think everyone expected more from him so far to start the season. They said they were going to get him more involved. They didn't. This guy, you could take a chance on him. And when I say take a chance, okay, this is for teams that are just in need of players. Like I have a team that is so terrible that I'm in need of a player who would normally be on waivers and I wouldn't even think twice. But I don't care who the hell the player is. I don't care who their name is, what team they is. If they can get you those points for that week, then you use them. And then once they fall off, you get rid of them. And that's what most of these players I'm mentioning represent is opportunity. Use them because they are performing, and then once it's over, you move on. That's how it is. Now let's talk about the Detroit Lions. Lord have mercy, bless the Detroit Lions. They need some help out there. What up, though? But anyways, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So they drafted him late. They did not prioritize the wide receiver position, which we all know, and so everybody is like, well, it's just Hawkinson and no one else. Williams, I can't even tell you if he's played a game this season. He been on IR forever and a day. They should have just moved on from him. So finally, this wide receiver, St. Brown, they finally gave him the opportunity to play. In the last two games, he's had 15, 16 targets, actually 13 receptions, which is really good. And he's had over 130 receiving yards, and he's finally played what 71% of the snaps this past week, and then the previous week around 68. So we're averaging out to about 65, 66% of the snaps combined for the last 2 weeks, which is good because you drafted him and it's not like you had anyone else. So let the kid play. He's playing against the Bengals. I expect him, out of everyone on this list for this practice squad, I expect him to perform really well because they don't have anyone else. Hawkinson is in a slump. Jared Goff is just Jared Goff, which is why he's on the Lions right now. And St. Brown is going to have the opportunity. And opportunity is important because we don't care if they give him 18 targets. If he's getting me 15 fantasy points, I will take that volume, whether it's garbage time or not. We want points, we want to win, and we'll use whatever players we have to on a given week to win. So this young man, if you're in a dynasty league, if the Lions really like him, he's someone you can add to the end of your bench in a dynasty league. If you use the sleeper platform, you can add him to the taxi squad and just I have him in one of my leagues in the taxi squad. So what I'm telling you guys is some things that I would do. So we're here. I'm on the same page. So um, put him on a taxi squad. If you are desperate this week, sounds like Jared Goff is looking to get this young man more involved. Take a chance on him, whether you sit him on the bench and see what he does this week, or you put him in that starting lineup as a flex play. Don't get cute, all right? Don't get out here in these fantasy football streets, all right? He's not your wide receiver one, okay? But he may be able to help you out. It's a flex play this week. Don't come for me because this is practice squad. So you already know what this is. I put a big warning out there for you guys that practice squad is exactly what it is. Think about what players go through on a practice squad in NFL. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears. One of my favorite backs, Montgomery. He is out, knee injury. I'll tell him when he's going to come back. So Damian Williams, right? He's going to get his opportunity. And no, Damian Williams is on the COVID list. So Khalil Herbert is next man up, and he is going to have the opportunity. So he's going to have opportunity, which means a lot of volume, and he's going to have the chance to pretty much take on that lead running back role until Williams returns from the COVID list. They're playing Green Bay. The Green Bay run D is not that good. He averaged the Green Bay run D is 4.3 yards per carry to opposing teams running back, which isn't really that good at all. So the only thing that I would say is going to hurt him is because Fields is not there yet. So that may kind of impact what he does on the field. Volume is important, and he's going to get the opportunity. So he's someone you should pick up whether Williams is back or not, because if Williams isn't playing good and this kid plays well, he's someone who you may be able to consider, because right now we are desperate with you got teams like the Ravens who normally have good running backs. They don't have one runner. We've got about 8 running backs into one and still ain't got a good running back. And then you got teams like the Giants with Barkley out, and then you got CMC out, and then you got Houston. You got to combine all of their running backs, and you still won't get one running back. So there are some teams that normally would produce a solid running back. We don't have that. And then you have teams with injuries like the Giants, Panthers, and as you can see, also the Browns, but they have a great backup, which is he's not available. Kareem Hunt isn't available. So Chubb's going to be out this week. Hunt's going to probably have enough. on his regular good games. And so a player like Herbert may be able to help you. But remember, this is practice squad. And when it's the practice squad, you already know it can go either way in these fantasy football streets. You may look like a genius, or you may look like you need to go on and have a seat and don't play fantasy football anymore. But you know what? It's about risk, high reward for some of these players. And we're getting to that point where you're looking at the waiver wire and you're like, ooh, it's not a lot out there. But you just got to pick through and pick up the best player for your team for that week. And you can do it based on matchups. Okay. If you're doing it based on matchups, that'll probably be um, a better situation, because then you may win. You may get the points because you're looking at the matchups. And a team like Green Bay's defense really not that good. So this young man may have a good game. And you got to also realize that the Bears are going to run the football. So there you go with that. And also bye weeks are coming up. So we got to plan for that. And let's talk about one more player, DeAndre Carter with Washington football team. Okay, last game, 8 targets, 4 receptions, little over 60 yards. He played over 65% of the snaps. Now, Curtis Samuel's out. He's dealing with injuries. I don't think he's going to be right this season. Starting this season off with injuries now, hamstrings not really well. This is going to be that year where it's just nothing but injuries, it seems like, for him. And he's trying to come back and get healthy. But nonetheless, Carter is starting to make some noise, get some traction going on with him. He's a wild card, another one of these players that you'll look like a genius if he plays well for you this week, or you'll look like you don't belong playing fantasy football. But that's okay, because we're gonna still play. But the thing is with this guy is Samuel is out, and there's opportunity for him to pretty much eat up some of those targets. He's played over 60% of the snaps, which is a good sign. And you also got to realize with Logan Thomas out, there's more opportunity for him. And he's like, when I say a wild card, this is deep, deep, deep leagues. If you're in one of those leagues where you have 6 teams, we're not doing that. But if you are, then these players you wouldn't even consider, because you probably have some better players out there. But again, this is the practice squad, and these are wild card players that you wouldn't even think twice about. However, you're thinking about them because they have the potential to help your team this week because of their opportunities. And that's why we are talking about them. All right, y'all. Y'all hit that like button and follow Wire Queen for more on fantasy football. Hit that subscribe button as well. And check out my video on start sits. It's out now. Go on and figure out and see what players you should start and what players you need to have all the way at the end of your bench so you can win this week. All right, y'all. Peace.